In today's episode, we are going to talk about President Trump's One Big Beautiful Bill Act and all the controversy that comes along with it.
All right. Hey, Tony, how's it going today, man?
Another day in Cleveland, another day of gray skies and rain.
Yeah. 60 degrees and raining.
Yeah, I can't wait. Hope June's different, man. May's been terrible.
Yeah, it's not been good.
No, but
looking like another golf night rained out. Two in a row.
First world problems, I know.
Yeah.
So, all right, man, we're going to talk about the big tax bill that's sitting in the Senate right now.
Yep.
It's gone through what? It's gone through the House and a couple committees and polished up, given to the Senate, and they said, hell no. I don't think they said it that bad, but I mean, there's a couple things they want to modify, and they're cranking through it right now. But the job of this episode today is to kind of talk about some of the key points. We'll talk about the pros, we'll talk about the cons, and we'll kind of see what how we feel it's going to play out for the American people.
Yep.
So, all right, so. In a nutshell, this is President Trump extending his 2017 tax bill,
right,
and just going to make it permanent now.
Mm-hmm.
And in all honesty, I really believe that the stock market is pricing in that this just gets done.
Yeah.
If it doesn't, man, you thought the tariffs made things rocky. Wait till you see this. That's just my personal opinion, but I do feel like it is going to be there's going to be a resolution, and most of the things are going to get passed. So, but let's talk about some of the pros. Obviously, we have tax cuts. They're going to extend the lower tax cuts that President Trump put in place in 2017. Without them, we would revert back to the Obama tax rates, and everyone, I did some pre-calculations last year, but they're saying anywhere between 15 to 20% is how much more people are going to pay in tax. I don't know. I'm not an economist or anything, but that sounds inflationary to me.
Yeah.
You thought paying $40 at McDonald's for hamburgers was a lot. Wait till you just pay more money to the government, who has a tendency not to do good things with your money. Introduce, they're talking about no tax on tips and overtime, things like that. And the way they're going to really set that up, because that's just a good headline, but it's going to be bracketed. You can't make $500,000 a year, work overtime, and expect to get a tax break.
Mm-hmm.
It is meant to help, middle America and some of the lower wage earners. There's a big stink about the SALT deduction,
right?
Increasing it from $40,000 or $10,000 to $40,000. Big. That's I don't know. That seems to be a real hang up for a lot of people in Congress, at least, because you got states that you don't pay taxes, and some states you do, and they're like, hey, that doesn't help us, so we're on the out, right? So.
I think that's how it's designed, though.
Exactly. Hey, what about us? Social Security income cuts, right? Like no paying taxes on Social Security. I think that's going to have some type of bracketing system. Not everyone's going to, there's already a point where you don't pay taxes on Social Security. You really can't have any other money or any other reportable income, but there's still a zero bracket in there. But I think they'll just expand on that. Is what I feel they're gonna come down with. And then the mega savings account, $1,000 for any babies born in Donald Trump's second term. I just saw that. I didn't know that was a thing. And all right, man, all the Trump haters, I wonder if they're just gonna give him back his $1,000.
Yeah, they probably will.
They might. But economic policies, beyond the tax cuts, going to help invest, boost investments, encourage job growth. We'll talk a little bit more about that because the big con on all of this is how it's going to increase the deficit. So that's where I'm gonna lay in. The good things that it can happen. I believe that. I believe that actually it's been proven that by cutting taxes you stimulate growth.
Right.
President Trump did that the last time. And I'll talk a little bit about that. And national security, that sounds like a really good idea. If anyone's fighting that, like, we got problems. I got problems with that. But beefing up the Defense Department, border security. When you got Donald Trump out there again, love him or hate him, when he's out there saying, "Hey, Canada, why don't you just become the 51st state?" I'm sure that rubs some people the wrong way. Not everyone really likes us because of our mentality to everyone else and around the world sometimes. So yeah, I feel like spending money on defense is a good idea because we seem to piss a lot of people off. And then but we're talking more of we got that missile defense system, the what do they call it, the Iron Curtain,
the Golden Dome.
Golden Dome.
Yeah.
Yeah,
the Golden Dome is Notre Dame.
Oh, is it?
The Golden Domers.
Yeah,
I think it is called the Iron Dome. It is written down Golden Dome here, but I think it is called the Iron Dome.
Yeah, restocking the nation's ammunition arsenal rather than giving it away to other people. Like, hey, how about we keep some bullets for ourselves in case we need them, right? In expanding our naval fleet, they've said our naval fleet is way behind everyone else. Just way behind. But again, how many, maybe naval warfare is more stealth submarines, and if we have submarines, you don't know about them. It's like the Doge. It's like, hey, he's walking around the Defense Department. It's like, hey, what's behind that door? I'm like, you can't look behind that door, man. That's secrecy. That's the whole name of the game. So anyway, those are the pros. You want to add or subtract anything from that, D?
No, I think I really think kind of the argument out there right now is that the more fiscal, responsible Republicans don't like the increase in the debt. But
let's talk about that.
Yeah, okay.
Because because I know that's the biggest headline with this. You're going to increase the national debt by $3 to $4 trillion. Let's rewind the clock to 2017 because back then when Donald Trump was proposing his new, the current tax bill that got passed, they were saying you're going to create $1.5 to $2 trillion in losses. That was back in 2017.
Right. As
the cards played out, the forecasts in 2022, so 5 years later, shows that we are going to be on pace to have a $570 billion higher increase in tax revenue.
Right.
By cutting taxes, it stimulates growth. Think about this. This is the way that I kind of look at that. If there's a lot of small business owners out there. There's obviously we have big corporations and stuff, but if you increase taxes on a business owner, from what I have seen from my desk and working with business owners and their personal finances, they don't go backwards in their personal spending.
No.
They don't make cuts. So if you tax them more and force a cut, guess what they do? They fire people.
Exactly.
They cut human capital. That's what they do. Or they'll spend less on research and development. They're going to be fine.
Right.
It's everyone that they might employ or hire for, whether they hire the human capital or just spend the money, it's over.
They might be fine on the surface, but if taxes are raised for everyone, then everyone has less money to spend, and you would assume have less money to spend on that person's business. So raising taxes is going to cause a giant headwind for the economy.
Yeah, because the headlines are like, well, the tax revenue reduction, tax revenues are going to be reduced. Mm-hmm. That did not play out the last time. We are extending this. What I just mentioned, it's a surplus.
Right.
it's more than they thought. Right. Than it was the decade before. It helps the rich. Well, if that's what it, so be it. Well, the rich create jobs. I don't know what to say. maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. But the rich people make what? I forgot that statistic. It's like the top 5% of earners spend 70% of the money or something like they buy 70% of the stuff.
It's like 70% of the tax revenue too.
Yeah,
from the top 5%, or maybe it was the top 10%.
They're talking about extending small business deductions. Again, if you tax businesses, they are going to make that money up somewhere else, and it's not going to be in anyone's favor who has a job.
Yep.
And then extending the estate tax exemption is like $20 million. Like, I do feel that that's a little egregious. That's up there. Like, it affects nobody, essentially.
Yep. You're either way below it or way above it.
Yeah. It's so astronomically high. But it is, that's the way they designed it. And I could say, like, yeah, we do need tax money. But I'm probably saying this, and some rich person out there is like, that's a stupid comment. So who knows? But, plus the one thing the deficit part is the biggest part. Like, it is such a headline statement that, if you don't account for growth, it is a deficit. But again, the last time they said it was a deficit, it became a surplus.
Right.
It could happen again. And that's what Donald Trump is, President Trump, that's what he is expecting.
Yeah, people choose to ignore the problem, but what we're doing, we can't continue just spending ourselves into debt to the levels that we'll never be able to pull out of. So, kind of one of my points was, they're the fiscal conservative Republicans, and it's Rand Paul, basically one of the only politicians I like, but he's still, very much against this. But at the same exact point in time, no one is doing anything to codify any of the Doge cuts and spending. That's what this bill was supposed to be. It was supposed to be spending cuts in here as well. And it's like one line on our summary here, but that's the main problem. It's not a revenue problem. It's a spending problem. And until they stop spending so much money, the government's never going to get out of this never-ending debt cycle.
Yeah, if I walk up and down the street, be like, "Hey, do you think you pay enough in taxes?" Then everyone's going to be like, "Hell yeah, I pay taxes. I pay taxes on things that on my earnings, and then I pay taxes on a house that I have paid off. I pay taxes on money that I make with my money that was already taxed. Like tax. It's like tax on tax on tax.
Mm-hmm.
Like, come on, man, you want to raise them when we're already getting, we're getting taxed from every angle." Right. So I don't know. I'm cool with keeping taxes where they're at. I don't know about anyone else, but outside of the deficit side. So I think we made a good case on, what the headlines are saying versus what is being planned and not really talked about. But there's proof in the pudding from the last tax bill that lower taxes, it stimulates growth. But the one thing that will happen with this passing of the bill, it's 1,100 pages, man. We're talking about a lot of, it's going to complicate taxes, specifically probably maybe not next year's taxes. The tax planning will have a problem. Yep. But next April, because we're going to be filing this year's taxes, and these are locked in. It's what all the tax. It's going to be a very interesting to, because we always say, like, hey, it's your job to understand taxes and pay the least amount possible. Right. So that puts a big workload on us to figure out what was passed and what are the tax strategies going forward, because there are going to be, several ways that this is going to become a maze of. How does this work? How does that work? Hey, Tony, how do I keep my income low so I get tax-free income for my Social Security? There's got to be a lot of things that have to happen. Yep. Right. and no understanding what we need to do right now is going to be very helpful, because it might involve Roth conversions. Hey, like if you want Social Security tax free, let's do the analysis, but we might need to convert a lot of money this year.
Yep.
I don't know. I'm making that up, but I mean, it's definitely something that's going to be. I feel that's going to come down on our plate, to help our clients on tax efficiency.
Yeah, for sure.
Another thing is, and I don't know this well enough, because it's hard to find exactly the right source to understand the cuts in Medicaid, in the Obamacare, the subsidy. What's the word? Can't think of the word. Anyway, the Obamacare kind of benefits and things like that. Think about this, man. Like I just my skin boils if I believe it, like how, like somebody who came here illegally is on Medicaid. I just can't believe that would happen.
Yep.
But I mean, you read enough articles and they say it is happening. I don't know. I don't look at the Medicaid budget. I don't know who the recipients are. I don't think the government knows who the recipients are.
Yeah, that's for sure.
But that is where tax cutting the bill. I would make an assumption. I'm not going to say they're going to, but I'm going to make the assumption that they're going to clean this thing up. The people that are taking advantage of the system that it wasn't designed for.
Right. Medicaid should be for people who are out of money or
broke.
Yeah, exactly.
They have no money and they need medical attention and they need medical benefits. That's who it's meant for. How somebody else gets on it, manipulating the system, I don't know.
Yeah, it seems that we just keep moving further and further apart on these issues. It seems that we real debate, real conversation doesn't even happen anymore. And it's kind of a tangent here, but look at California, right? California has, I don't know it off the top of my head, but it has to be one of the biggest state tax revenues in the country. It has to be either New York, California, or Texas. All of those Hollywood stars making movies in Hollywood, they've stopped doing that because the taxes are so high. But it is just, there's so many state taxes that go into California, and the state government of California is so broke, so far in debt. Everything is hopeless when you look at their state budget. I mean, look at the fire department. The fire department couldn't even operate essentially because they had a bunch of diversity officers and underfunded everywhere else.
Yeah, or they got I think they showed like when California had those tragic fires, like all the fire engines that were just broken.
Yeah,
they're sitting in a graveyard essentially.
Yep.
Right, and they are not spending their money in the right places.
Exactly. That is exactly that is the point that no Democrat will ever utter out of their mouth, is that there is money, it's just not being spent well.
Yeah.
And I'm getting to the point. California recently passed legislation to provide free health care for every illegal immigrant. It's like you can't afford to. You have no money to do that.
Yeah.
And who it's not a moral debate, right? There's only a limited amount of things that you can do, and if we lined up 10 Democrats from California, all 10 of them would agree that was a good move to do. When there's no rationale on how it's going to get paid for, in a state that is already just taxed to death.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
Mm-hmm. I agree, man. It's we're taxed to death. And some states just are worse than others, right? Yeah. But again, this deficit spending, like how it's going to add to the national debt. No, I don't believe it. Like not to the tune of $1 trillion.
I completely agree with you.
I just don't believe it because it can stimulate growth. But I'm on board, man. Like, again, I'm just blatantly saying it. I just don't think a lot of people in the world like us because the way we operate, and so yeah, spending $150 billion on defense, that makes a lot of sense to me, man.
Yep.
I'd love to protect our freedoms. We're free, and not a lot of countries are, and they don't like that.
Yep.
Because we're setting a bad example for the tyrants out there, right? Or $50 billion on border wall construction. Like, I mean, I need to look this up, or who knows if we can even figure it out. But how much money was spent on letting just people come over the border?
Yep.
And you hear the rumors that they put them in planes and strategically
those aren't
planted
rumors.
them. Well,
Those
I mean,
are
how
not
much
rumors.
was spent? Because
exactly.
you got Clinton and Obama who have deported tens of millions of people, and we're kicking out a plane full of gangbangers and the place is going crazy.
Yep.
Like, you can't do that. Like, are you, like, again, these headlines that stir the pot with no substance is just, it's what I hate about
it's
today.
Infuriating, man. It really
ever
is.
since COVID, it's just what stirs the pot this day, man. And like, how can I get under your skin? Let me try a couple ways to do that. Like, good God, man. Peel back the onion, do some research, read some articles. And again, the first article you read, that's what I try and do. I try and read like 2 to 4 articles about a particular thing I'm thinking about, and to see if if they all have the same conclusion. Right. I don't pick the first one because it could just be biased. So anyway, at the end of the day, I do feel that this tax bill, needs to be passed. Because I don't want to pay more taxes. It will wreck the stock market. Like, the market has priced in the passing of this bill. If there are hiccups, and not saying that it won't pass, but just like any delays, any pushback that is exempt, like really brought to the attention to like where this thing could come to a screeching halt. Any of that stuff is just it's the pathway of more volatility this year.
Yep,
in
absolutely.
My opinion.
No, 100%. And most of it's due to the taxes, right?
Yes. It will affect everybody, businesses, individuals, you name it, man.
And the corporate rate goes up too, right?
Yes.
So yeah, it's
small business, big business, me and you just getting paid like
20% less.
20%. Yeah, enjoy it, man. It's going to be great.
That's exactly what's going to happen. So
fart noise.
So yeah, it's definitely priced in 100%. So if there's problems with it, you can expect probably at least a 10% pullback, probably more.
I don't even want to. I mean, there was a 10% pullback on his hawkish tariffs.
Yeah,
like the market priced in the tariffs, but not the way he came at it. Right, and then the market fell off 10%. But then everyone got a 90-day breather, and the market just rebounded back to where it was essentially. So, again, be prepared. At the end of the day, I feel that this bill will get passed. Can it create volatility in the stock market in particular? Yes. If there is no conclusion.
Yep.
I would actually be surprised like that it's so priced in that once it's passed, like the market sells off slightly.
Yep.
Just the market runs up to it, and then once it happens, it lets off a little bit of steam, in my opinion.
Sell the news type of deal.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
Sell the news. I like that. So, all right, man.
All right. Well, good stuff this week. Enjoyed talking about that big, beautiful bill. Hopefully it does get passed.
One big, beautiful. And we were talking with our engineer. I'm like, really, man? Like, who did you wake up and just say, man, I can't wait till that beautiful bill gets passed? And then somebody is like, I like the ring of that. And he just ran with it. Oh, man.
Yes, Mr. President. That sounds like an excellent name.
Oh,
so thanks for listening this week. If you guys have any questions, comments, show ideas, hit us up at info@swpconnect.com, and we'll talk to you next week.
The opinions expressed in the podcast are for general informational purposes only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any investment, legal, financial, or tax strategy. It is only intended to provide education about the financial industry. Please consult a qualified professional about your individual needs.